The previews and breakdowns don't stop on the latest episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. And buckle up. We're headed out west for round 2. Oilers, Canucks, Avalanche, and Stars. We're breaking it all down for you on today's episode.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Springtime hockey rolls on, and on the Wednesday episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, we're headed out west to take a look at what is sure to be a couple of juicy matchups. Avs taking on the Dallas Stars, Canucks going up against a red-hot Edmonton Oilers group. Thank you so much for joining us. Shout out to the everydayers holding us down, making us your first listen every single day. We wouldn't be here without y'all, and shout out to everybody tapped into that big Tuesday episode. That one got a little spicy, Steele. Might not be as spicy on today's episode. However, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app and create an account. Use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. There's going to be a lot of applying some heat to today's episode, Steele. We're going to keep this rolling Monday through Friday, all summer long. Round 2, baby. Take it where you want it. Maybe let's start Canucks Oilers, because I think this one has a clear-cut angle that we're going to cover. However, over to you, my friend, wherever you want to go.
If that's where you want to start, let's start with Vancouver Canucks and Edmonton Oilers. I'm in the same boat. This is a clear-cut take for me. I'll leave my prediction to the very end, but let's start with the X factor for the Edmonton Oilers. And I'm going back to who I said it was in the first round series, and it's Evan Bouchard. They need to continue to have that superstar stud on the blue line. We saw him have a huge impact in that first round series against the Nashville Predators on the power play, 5-on-5, shorthanded. He does it all for them right now. And after an 80-point-plus regular season, career high for him, and then continuing to dominate in back-to-back playoffs, he continues to make a very good case for him for being one of the top young defensemen in the league right now. Obviously, I'm not going to put him in that same tier as guys like Cale Makar and a few others, but he's on his way. He's
close, yeah.
He's there. He's getting up there. So I love what I've seen from Evan Bouchard so far, and obviously you want to continue to see some other depth players continue to get theirs. Evander Kane, hopefully he rolls into this Canadian matchup with high intensity. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins as well. Zach Hyman continue to do his thing in front of the net, but again, the elusive star defenseman who can do everything on the power play, 5-on-5, transition well, jump up into the play. Evan Bouchard seems to be that guy for Edmonton, and I just love what I've seen for him. So I'm going back to him for being the X factor in this series.
I love that, Steele. He's my X factor as well. Look, when you have a guy like that with a booming shot from the blue line, those guys don't come around very often. And take a look around at the Cale Makars of the world, what teams can do when you have that option on the back end. Then you sprinkle in this elite special teams play from the Edmonton Oilers, which you and I have covered at length. The penalty kill, suffocating during the first round, and then they're rolling on the power play. That's really hard to stop. Let's bring this up, though. We know the regular season is a totally different beast, and the playoffs are its own season. The Vancouver Canucks took all 4 games in the regular season this year against the Edmonton Oilers. Just got to throw that caveat out there. But when it comes down to this, Steele, and hit me with your take on this, because this is not exactly a tangible thing. But no disrespect to the Nashville Predators, but Vancouver is now going from dealing with Nashville, who very pesky, very complete. They grinded it out. And now you got to have the offense of Connor McDavid blow in here. That just might be too much to handle for Artur Shilovs. And I actually really like what that kid has done. His numbers are sensational. Yeah. He comes in and he gets a shutout in the playoffs, and he's never, ever seen the playoffs before. That's credit due for sure. And I actually like him as a sneaky option moving forward as some goaltender insurance in the fantasy realm if he's going to be the backup in Vancouver. Thatcher Demko might be back at some point in this series. I just don't think they have enough to go up. When you look at that top 6 in Edmonton, Steele, my goodness, it's going to be very difficult for this Vancouver Canucks team to handle it. However, I think if my X factors, I'm copping out, come into play for Vancouver, it's really the only way. And if you're okay with it, I'll hit you with that. But hit me with your take on what I just said.
Yeah, and honestly, if we're going to X factors for the Vancouver Canucks, I think
Mm,
Shelovs is going to have to be one of them. I have another name in mind as well,
sure.
but it's not going to be the same case for them. This was, you go look at
Yeah.
that Vancouver Canucks Nashville first round series. That was probably one of the lowest, if not the lowest, shot attempts and shots on goal series
Yep.
that we've ever seen,
Mm.
especially through a 6-game
Gonna
series.
be a different brand of hockey coming up.
And they went through 3 goaltenders. And just looking at the stats from Shilovs, yeah, the stats are great. I believe he has. Let me just pull it back up here one second. A 938 save percentage and a 1.70 goals against
Yep.
average. Absolutely incredible with that one shutout, like you said. But he's only facing 26 shots per game. That's not a low number, but it's not a high number at all. Like
Yeah, he hasn't really been tested, has he?
he hasn't been tested with like some of these cross crease, cross stream
Mhm.
passes that we've seen throughout the NHL and throughout the playoffs so far. And we know the Edmonton Oilers are going to pepper him with pucks. So that's going to be a huge factor in this series. Is he's going to see a ton of rubber. He's going to see a ton of players in front of him in the blue crease, digging and battling away Evander Kane, Zach Hyman, like I've mentioned. So that's going to be an X factor for me.
Mm.
Artur Shilovs of the Vancouver Canucks. Can he continue to be dominant like we saw in that first round series? But I think you also got to look at obviously the guy who sort of disappeared in the first round series for the Vancouver Canucks, and Elias Pettersson. 3 assists in 6 games for Pettersson, a
Not enough.
-2. Only had 8 shots on net. Not
Ew.
good enough. Yeah, 8 shots in 6 games in 6 games in the first round. Not good enough from Elias Pettersson. Not
No.
good of what the organization expects out of him. And just like we've seen a couple of stars so far, that he's disappeared. And I'm really hoping he can be in that conversation, be in the game, be in the series against this talented Edmonton Oilers team. It's an all-Canadian matchup in the second round. Who moves on? Who's going to be the Canadian team that takes it to the glory land for all of Canada? Who knows? But, I mean, it's going to be a tough series for Vancouver if both Shilovs and Elias Pettersson don't show up.
So first and foremost, like before I get to a couple of more points and what you just said, are we backing either of these teams as Canadian hockey fans? Like, should we just throw our support behind Edmonton? Because Canucks fans would never, ever support Leafs.
I know you are. I know you are because you have Edmonton as one of the top teams in the Western Conference. As a Canadian, I'm 100% backing both of these teams.
Okay.
I mean, I lived in Vancouver for a year. I'm not going to say I was a fan by any means, but I lived there for a year.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are 2 Canadian teams, and I would love to see the Stanley Cup come back to Canada for I don't know how long it's been
me
now.
too.
What, over 30 years? So
Too long.
I
too
mean,
long.
I'm not a fan of the team, obviously, because I'm a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, but I'm a Canadian and I'm a fan of Canada. So let's go Canada. Let's go to the Canadian teams. Let's get it done.
Big fans of Canada on this podcast, Steele. Speaking of which, later on in the show, we're taking a look at a juicy Avs Star series. You got any bets for tonight, Steele? Because I got a couple of bets to throw out there as well. Same game parlay time. Let me leave it at this. The penalty kill for the Vancouver Canucks during the regular season was only clicking at 79%. That was 17th best in the NHL. And now you have Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl and company rolling in there. Very confident bunch offensively, especially on the power play. If Vancouver doesn't tighten it up on the penalty kill, this might be over in 3.5 games, Steele. That's how quick they're going to get dealt with. I know we're going to take some heat in the comment section. By the way, continue to smash that subscribe button.
Yes, sir.
Drop us a 5-star review. We love the comments. We love the back and forth, but we're not here for the hate. So make sure you're bringing some proper hockey takes, just like we're going to continue to do for the rest of the episode. Steele, your predictions very quickly for this series. I got Oilers in 5.
I also have Oilers in 5, and I was battling, and it's just because, again, if Elias Pettersson doesn't show up, it's going to be a very, very tough series. So I've got Oilers in 5. My best bet for this series, I'm going with, this is crazy. They have Dakota Joshua at minus 260. Yeah, this is insane.
I think that's a mistake.
That has to be a mistake.
That's a typo.
That's clearly a mistake on their part. They're going to have to fix that. But my best bet for this series, Leon Draisaitl, point leader, plus 410.
That is a juicy odd, and I'm just going to cop out and go with the McDavid series point leader at -115. If you're looking at value, Steele's is the angle to go with. If you want to play it a little safer, I think both of those bets, though, Steele, maybe the McDavid angle, you slap it into a parlay to get a little bit more value out of it. Draisaitl, chuck a 20, and thanks Steele later. Both could definitely happen. What's going to happen right around the break is we're going to do the exact same thing we just did. Dallas, Colorado. Honestly, Steele, that's the series that I am going to be paying closer attention to because I think it's going to be much closer in how it shakes down. However, we'll do that right around the break. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. You never want a stressful ticket buying experience, and that's why you're using the Game Time app. You can customize everything, last-minute deals, flash deals, zone deals. Easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. That includes views from your seats in the venue, lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and everything that you need to take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Buy NBA tickets with Game Time. Download Game Time app, create an account, use code Locked On NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. However, today's episode is also brought to you by Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you attract, interview, and hire all in one place. We streamline the hiring process with powerful tools to find your match candidates. With Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates right away the moment they sponsor a job. Shout out to Indeed. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit and upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. Offer is only good for a limited time. That's Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Are you still watching on Fox Sports or ESPN, though? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting. Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe, the follow button, leave a 5-star review for both Flip and I. We appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday. 7 o'clock in the morning is when you can find our episodes. Colorado Avalanche, Dallas Stars meeting in the second round. Avalanche have had a long time off. Maybe not a long time, but they've had some time off. They win that series 4-1 against the Winnipeg Jets. The Dallas Stars go a 7-game series with Vegas. So this is a little bit of a mix. This is kind of throwing me for a whirl for game one.
Sure.
Just because of what we saw last night or, a couple days ago with that Boston Bruins, Florida Panthers. Florida Panthers 1-5. Boston went to 7. They had all this momentum picking up, and Boston steamrolled over Florida in game 1, 5-1. Did not expect that to happen.
38 saves from Swayman again, starting to cook.
Swayman, top 5 goaltender in the NHL. We're gonna have to talk about that in the offseason.
Top 5 fantasy goalie? I would
top 5
put him
fantasy
close.
goalie. He might be. Linus Allmark might be getting traded.
That's my bad. I totally forgot to ream off my Canucks X Factor. So let me do it very, very quickly.
Yeah, go for it.
Got to be that third line: Dakota Joshua, Elias Lindholm, and Connor Garland. Somebody on the Vancouver Canucks, not in the top 6, is going to have to throw an offensive wrinkle at this Edmonton Oilers team because they've got that going. So for me, it's got to be depth scoring. I know Pettersson, that's an obvious one. You brought that up. But for me, during the regular season, and you brought it up many a time, Dakota Joshua and Connor Garland, the third line. I know Lindholm wasn't there the whole season, but that was an effective line for them. Dakota Joshua throwing his body around, Connor Garland skating around, getting some goals. Elias Lindholm, we know what he can do. So very quickly there, that was my X factor for the Canucks. Their third line is going to need to be a lot better than they were. Maybe not a lot better, but better.
Whole team's going to have to be really good going up against this Edmonton Oilers squad. But, I guess that goes in the same vein with my X factor for the Dallas Stars a little bit.
Okay.
My X factor for the Dallas Stars in this matchup, it needs to be the superstars. It needs to be the first line, top line up front, as well with Miro Heiskanen as well. They need to show up in this series because just looking at what we saw in the first round, Robertson had 5 points, but he was a -5. Heiskanen had 5 points, but he was a -6. And then you go to Hintz, who had only 1 goal in the series, and Pavelski, who had 0 points. It's
Yeah.
not good enough because
No.
we know this Colorado Avalanche is going to get theirs all the time, like we saw in round one. 20 plus goals in that first round series in 5 games. They dominated offensively, and that's something that we did not see from the Dallas Stars in the first round. Besides the first game, a lot of low-scoring games like I predicted in that matchup. I don't know if it's going to be as low-scoring in this second-round series against the Colorado Avalanche, but for the Dallas Stars, they need to be as good or even better than the Avalanche's top line, and that needs to be proven in game one.
Hey, this one was a really hard one for me to predict, and I think all those angles that you just highlighted are all going to play into this being a battle, but a battle in a different sense of the other ones that we saw this playoff Steele. Bruins Leafs, that one really was grinded out. And I think this one we might actually see a little bit of a fireworks show. I don't know if that's a bold prediction considering it's the playoffs, but I think, and let me just spit out my X factor for the Dallas Stars, considering all of that firepower that you mentioned and what we saw from the Colorado Avalanche in terms of their ability to just turn it on, especially in the offensive end. I'm looking at their second D pairing, the shutdown pairing of Chris Tanev and Esa Lindell. They are going to need to be all over the McKinnons, the Rantanens. Chris Tanev's a big boy. He needs to throw his body around a little bit more and really start to affect their ability. I think last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, right? You get pounded 5 or 6 or 7 times. When you go back to play the puck and go to do Cale Makar things, you're double taken because you don't like to get put on your bottom too much. And that's the kind of impact that second D pairing is going to have. They are going to need to shut down somebody. I don't know if it's the middle stats or the Lekkonens of the world or the big boys, but they are going to need to snuff out some part of that Avalanche attack. As much as I really do like their offensive ability and ability to respond, I don't think this Stars team wants to play run and gun with the team that really is the best run and gun team in the NHL.
So clearly, the entire Dallas Stars team has to just be going at all times. Because I'm saying the offense needs to be an X factor. You're saying the blue line needs to be an X factor. X factor for the Colorado Avalanche, though, is actually the blue line for me. They need a strong blue line. They need to protect the area in front of Alexander Georgiev. Clear out all that garbage. Clear out all the players in front of him. Don't let the box out. Clear them out of that area so Georgiev can get a clear eye view of the puck and cover those rebounds when needed, and continue to activate their defensemen into the rush like we saw in the first round series. Don't get too far up there and let yourself get beat on an odd man rush, but jump up in the play, add some variety, add another pass option for Nathan McKinnon, the wingers out there like we saw in the first round series. Activate the defenseman, box out in front of Georgiev, and they're gonna make easy work if they continue to do that.
Ooh, easy work might be a tad bold, but I see where you're going with this. I'm going back to the same old X factor that I had in the first round because I went to go put down Georgiev, but I think that one's far too obvious considering the weakness we know is highlighted on this team is the goaltending. I'm going with the same guy I had in the first round, and then he went off. Arturi Lekkonen has proven to be a playoff performer. He's gotten it done for them multiple times and in very big fashion, series-clinching goals, game-winning goals. He had a goal in each of the first-round games. He has 8-point steal. He has 4 even-strength goals. He is really doing it again for them, and what is the most important part of this X-Factor pick? He's playing on the top power play unit with Cale Makar, Mikko Rantanen, Nathan McKinnon. I don't think we need to say anything else. He has another big opportunity here to not only continue to contribute Steele, but I think once again be an X factor. All of the things that we just highlighted, something's got to give, right? Because both of these teams, in my opinion, I obviously have my take here, and I'll spit it out. Stars in 7. I'm leaning Stars. I think this is going to be a close series. I had Stars in 6, but I thought that was too bold considering how good we know. This is a Stanley Cup winning unit for the most part for the Colorado Avalanche, right? The Dallas Stars do not have that. So there's something also to be said, I think, from that angle. Hit me with your take, though, because I have no idea actually where you're going with your prediction.
I love the fact that you're sticking with your guns. You've been on the Edmonton Oilers. You've been on the Dallas Stars all season long. So I love that you're standing behind them, but I will not be standing with you there. Colorado Avalanche in 6 for me. I think there's just too much power both on the blue line offensively. Casey Middlestat, Zach Parise, Arteri, like all these guys that you mentioned, the depth scoring was a huge factor for the Colorado Avalanche in that first round series against the Winnipeg Jets. I think they're going to continue to be a huge factor with depth scoring as well as activating their blue line. And then again, Georgiev after game 2 or after game 1, really, he stood on his head. He was really good for the Colorado Avalanche. So I'm going with Avalanche in 6. Okay. My best bet for this series, and I absolutely love it, Valeri Nichushkin to be the leading goal scorer at plus 650. He led the first round. Yeah, plus 650 for Nichushkin. He led the first round series with 7 goals for the Colorado Avalanche and in the entire first round series. I'm not quite sure why McKinnon and Rantanen are above him when they pass the puck a lot more. Valeri Nichushkin is not much of a passer, but he gets the rebounds. He gets the pass from those two players, and he was dominating. So I'm going with Nichushkin plus 650 goal leader.
I think you're really going to like my best bet, Steele. 4+ goals scored in every game of the series. So you're telling me I'm going to get plus money here at plus 105 for 4 or more goals scored? I'm really liking. I don't see too many. I don't see too many 2-1 games in this one, Steele.
Yeah, 3-2.
3-2, I see. 4-2 for sure. And then I'm well over 4 goals. So 4+ goals in each game of the series at plus 105. I think that you're going to see that number start to really dip. Jump on it now while you can, and you can thank Uncle Flip for that one later. I got a couple more bets, though, Steele, for tonight's action coming up right after the break.
Bets after the break for Wednesday night. But first, this episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. We've all been there either as a player or a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard is not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure you or your team can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep, lift your head up, and say to yourself, time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heists, and take as much of my friends' money as I possibly can. That's right, the smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone anytime with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. And there's just so much to do. Play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards. Make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. Charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb that leaderboard. So get back out there, put your game face on, and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. And once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. We appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday. Like we said, big time bets. Here's where it's at. If you don't mind, I'm just going to list off all 3 of mine. I'm liking this.
I forgot my best bet again, Steele, for Canucks Oilers. I'm really slipping on this, and I know we got stuff to do today, so that's my bad. Best bet, series leader, the Stars to win the series, minus 115 was the second one in addition to the 4+ goals. I forgot I had 2 there. I know I'm copping out. That's my bad. I just had to throw that out there because, like you said, sticking to my guns, and I'm not shying away. Please take it away. I'm sorry to keep interrupting you, my friend.
All good, my friend. We got to get those bets out there. So I love the fact that you got multiple, but big time bets where the money is made for Wednesday night. 2 games on the schedule.
He's back.
Excuse me about that. Still recovering
from a sickness. Let the guy
still recovering from a sickness. Yeah, I had to catch my breath and get a cough out. But 2 games on the schedule: Bruins, Panthers, Oilers, Canucks. First 2 picks come from that Oilers-Canucks game. First pick, Oilers on the money line at minus 134 on the road in Vancouver. Like I said, this is going to be a 5-game series. It could be less potentially, but I'm going with 5. But minus 134 for the Oilers. Absolutely loving that odd. And then I'm going to pair that up with a McDavid anytime goal. I love McDavid to maybe pop one in this game 1 first before he starts passing the puck and facilitating like we see him do. And my lock of the night, this is going to be a little bit of a cop-out just from what we saw in first game, but I'm teeing it up to under 6.5 in the Bruins-Panthers game. It is currently at under 5.5 at minus 124. And I think I would even be comfortable taking the under 5.5 at minus 124, but it was 6 goals in the first game. Again, it was a long time for the Panthers to wait for the Bruins to get into the second round. Maybe a little bit of I don't know, tiredness, laziness once that came around. But
Maybe a combo.
I'm going to tease it up. It's going to be a little bit of a higher odd, but under 6.5 is my lock of the night.
I love that, Steele, except I'm doing a little bit of the opposite in another game. I'm going to tease this down in the Oilers game and take the over 5.5. You're getting minus 160. I'm a little bit concerned about taking the over 6.5, which is why I'm hitting that alternate spread. Make sure you're tapped into FanDuel for all the latest. Minus 160, along with Oilers money line in my same game parlay. Oilers money line would be my lock of the night. I think they come out and really set the tone in this series. I expect them to do so, along with Connor McDavid anytime assist. And as much as I understand your angle, and you're probably going to get a much better odd for the anytime goal, obviously, in Connor McDavid's career against the Vancouver Canucks in 40 regular season games, he has 64 points. That's more points against any other team in his career. And how about this? In those 40 games, Steele, 41 assists. He's better than an assist per game player. So Oilers, money line, lock of the night, teasing it to over 5.5. And McDavid anytime assists. I don't want to jinx myself, Steele, but I'm going to be hammering that one.
Absolutely love it for game one, Oilers-Canucks. Feeling this Western Conference matchups right now. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Once again, go check out Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. You can also find them on the free Amazon Fire TV channel app. They are here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts, plus the national shows covering every single league. So make sure you go subscribe, check it out on the free Amazon Fire TV channel app. And once again, thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode with Flip and I. Have a great day. Good luck with your bets out there, and we shall see you back here again tomorrow.
Peace.